Absolutely. It's a state of consciousness. So, if you go through these images, we see that it might begin with a bit of chatting up. It just happens to have angels here at the same time. I think that's an angel. And then the romance can develop. The couple might meet, exchange tokens, flowers, gifts, chit-chat, and that love is starting to build within the people. That tenderness is starting to occur. Then they get very romantic, dances on the beach. Very nice. And then finally, we come to the moment where the kiss occurs. The kiss is the mystical consecration of two souls eager to express what they feel inside. It's a way of allowing love to be expressed between two people. Whether it's a mother and child, obviously the child isn't going to necessarily kiss mum back. Or whether it's a couple, a romantic couple, or whether it's a couple who've been together for 30, 40, 50 years. The kiss is a vital part of being in love because it carries something with it. It enables that love, in some ways, to flow between the people, to make them one thing. They are unified. They are one. And ultimately, later on, this love may be sealed with the union of the two beings. One who loves more, the other who loves better. So this is all very nice. We're feeling the love now, the expression of love. Even though these images are just images on a projector in a room in London. Where are we? At this moment, hopefully we're inside ourselves, being aware of ourselves, looking out of ourselves like our eyes are windows, looking out, trying to be inside, feeling our reality, feeling our heart. Because couples do that a lot. They spend a lot of time together, romanticizing, and sharing. Being in love is a force which brings people together. What we're talking about ultimately in terms of the union between two people is the combination of two opposite forces, masculine and feminine. And then the conciliation, the third factor that brings those two forces together, is the love in itself. And that leads to creation, ultimately. So to be, literally, to be in love for a couple, there are two bodies with a single life. They are willing to share the good times and the bad moments with each other. Ultimately, and again, we'll come on to this in a little bit more detail in a moment, love emanates from our profound interior, our intimate, our inner being, as we've already said. It comes from the undiscovered part of our reality in here, in our heart, in our consciousness. However, there is a barrier, or a number of barriers, which gradually, maybe very quickly, but gradually block the manifestation of love within a couple. And we're using the couple as an example because it's really easy to find photographs like this. Sometimes love ends up like this. Something is acting in those moments to make these people appear to be anything other than in love. Barriers within themselves, resentments, moods, fears, psychological behaviour in general. These are real within us. Every human has experienced these feelings. And these feelings get in the way of love, the manifestation of love. So this is where it gets practical. If we consider our psychology as a whole, so I know it's shown as a circle there, but we consider the whole of us is our psychology, just for the example here, right? So it's our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Okay, it's not just what goes on in here, it's what goes on in our feelings and what we do. That's our psychology, and that is because, in this example, we can reflect about what our psychology is actually made up from. Two fundamental components, that is, essence and egos, plural. Essence is another word, another way of saying consciousness. And egos are all those aspects we have inside us which we don't really think much of. For example, negativities could be pride, anger, jealousy, for example, those sorts of things. So these little grey, cloudy things are supposed to be egos, and inside each one of those is a small amount of trapped essence or trapped consciousness. And then there's a lump of free essence or free consciousness, that bit there, which you can see. And that yellow bit, that free consciousness, is the driver, the impulse, which brings all of us to talks like this. It's the thing within us which drives us to think there must be more to life. There must be more than the humdrum, rat run, go to work, become a machine, come home again, sleep, and do the same again tomorrow, and then die at the end of it. There must be more to life. That internal life, we could say, must be real. And as soon as we start to think or feel like that, okay, this consciousness, this essence, begins to awaken. So let's just briefly talk about that for a moment. The awakening of the consciousness is a fundamental part of enabling us to understand our reality so that we can then appreciate more fully what love is. And we can experience love more easily because the barriers which we have, the jealousies, the resentments, the fears, for example, actually move away or disseminate out of us, remove themselves from us. So that in each moment we are conscious and aware of where we are, and thus able to allow, or enable ourselves to allow that love to manifest directly. The barriers are removed when we awaken consciousness. It's like getting out of the machine. This is a 15th century German woodcut, which has been, someone's coloured it in. But basically it's about the system in which we find ourselves. In this case, it's been drawn in that way. We need to break through the barrier to see the reality of how the universe and we work. Because there is more to us than just the mechanistic way of behaving and existing. There's something inside us that drives us beyond that. You've seen the film The Matrix. First one, they talk about this a lot. Okay. So, what we're saying...
Are there two Matrix films?
3.
Oh, I didn't realise there were 3.
There's no point in watching the last one though.
So,
No point in watching the last one though.
why?
Very good. I think it's only the first one that captured the true essence of.
Well, it depends where you want to stop. You could, yeah, I can, with that analysis, you can see where they're going with the third one. It's just very difficult for them to express what they're trying to express and keep the sort of Hollywood.
Fair enough.
But the first one is, yeah, you're right, the first one's the best one. But they're expressing this here, awakening the consciousness. Because in awakening that consciousness, we are able to, a classic term now, you've probably all heard, live in the moment. To be in this moment now. So, I would ask you, can you feel your feet Can you feel your bum on the chair? Are you aware of your posture? Now you begin to feel your clothes. A little bit longer, you feel your breathing. You become aware of your breathing. Oh, I'm breathing through my nose. What does it smell like in here? For example, we're awakening consciousness. We're being in this moment, actually becoming aware of it. All the information's coming in all the time. We're just not aware. As soon as we look and turn that consciousness on, as it were, we can start to live our life, live in this moment. When we live in the moment, jealousy, anger, whatever, can't manifest because we just are. We are just in the moment. And that being in the moment allows love to express between people, between us and nature, between animals, between plants. They're all at one. We're not. We're all over the place. Worried about missing the bus, worried about getting some money so we can buy some bread tomorrow, whatever it may be. And so that means if we're in the moment, we're able, as we go back to the example of the couple, we're able to even go through the most gravest, gravest situations. For example, washing up. Even washing up as a couple, if we're in the moment, can be great fun. I know you're all thinking that can't be true.
What I'm really thinking is the majority of the world are not couples, and the majority of the world don't do things as couples.
That's true enough, as my example. But yes, in the same. But yes, you're right, completely, obviously.
And
how
it's not. It's no.
Yeah, but my point is that if we're in the moment, if we are now, then we're able to live our life.
That's true.
And that could be any people, any group of people. Going back to those different examples of the
It
groups.
doesn't have to focus on a couple.
No, absolutely not. Not at all. Not at all. But I'm going to use it in the next image. Sorry. Because there's the honeymoon feeling. Can you remember the honeymoon feeling? Some people here may have been married. But that feeling when the love first came as a couple, or a feeling in a family between cousins or between auntie and somebody else. There's a feeling there which comes with the love. Can we maintain that feeling rather than fall back into these sorts of feelings, which we've already talked about? Again, looking at the psychology, we have these egos within us, these psychological negativities, and they can be summarized into groups, but basically we have things like lust and pride and anger and laziness, and we have resentment, gluttony, fear, and we can do away with all of those. And this is where we come to the very practical part, as we said earlier, of the discussion or of the topic, because we can eliminate those negativities from our psychology. How? We understand them first, and to understand them we need to observe them. So we need to separate ourselves from them. So me, my internal reality, my consciousness, my essence, me, I'm going to observe my thoughts. So Eckhart Tolle, have you read any of his books?
He's only taking this stuff from the Buddhists. The Buddhists, he's just taking it from the Buddhists.
Okay, sure.
So
But that principle of self-observation.
He's somebody who, Eckhart Tolle, made a lot of money from a Buddhist concept.
But what we say in GNOSIS is that concept is very useful. I'm not saying we follow Eckhart Tolle, I'm saying the concept in itself, to separate ourselves, because when we separate ourselves and see how we are, and see how these resentments or fears, whatever they may be, are actually working inside us, we understand them, and we understand them, if we choose to, we can eliminate them. So, for each of us, we have 3 tools which enable us to do this internal work, let's call it that. Okay, let's just quickly look at these internal tools, or three practices. They are the three factors of the revolution of the consciousness. Okay? So we're going to awaken the consciousness to enable ourselves to look at these three aspects. The first one is called mystical death. That is a title or a phrase which is referring to psychological death. It's the elimination of jealousy or the removal of fear, for example. The second factor down there, birth, is where we start to manage our internal energies. We don't lose them in our arguments or in our jealousies or whatever they may be, worries. We actually keep the energies balanced within ourselves. And then sacrifice for humanity is to share what we have done within ourselves. So if we gain some information internally about how we are, comprehended who we are, and then eliminated those negative aspects, and then we manage the energy that goes with that, we can then share that with other people. We can empathize with them. We can help people in those moments. Consciously help other people. The first factor, mystical death, it's like, if we consider that each of those egos, the great blobs we saw earlier, is like a glass bottle with a cork, and inside is a little trapped bit of essence or consciousness, which is like the corresponding value. So if we have, for example, anger, the opposite might be altruism, as an example. Okay? So what we try to do with a series of techniques in Gnosis is to break that bottle, to allow the essence to be freed from its prison and inside us. The second factor, excuse me, that's still the first factor, liberating the life. So once we eliminate that defect, that prison in which our consciousness has been bottled, the light is able to manifest, the wisdom, the self-purification, etc. And that's with the help of an internal aspect we have inside us. We mentioned already the inner being, if you recall. The inner being has got two fundamental aspects, the feminine and the masculine. The feminine aspect is represented by the Hindustani Diva Kundalini, or the ancient Egyptian Isis. Either way, we ask that aspect within ourselves to eliminate those negativities from inside our psychology. The second factor, the birth, as I already mentioned, is very related to the management of energies. So, do anybody recognise this? Yeah, the chakra Muladhara. Yeah, the base of the spine here. So we're talking about energy management, and that's how to pronounce it, Helen? Uroboros. So keeping that energy within, not allowing energy to be wasted. And then the third factor is, as we've already mentioned, to do with sacrifice for others, selflessness, to help other people. And there's an example there, Mother's Teresa. So, if we were able to apply these three factors for the revolution of our consciousness, awaken and develop our consciousness and essence, then that enables us to live our life so that love can manifest consciously through us. So moving off and washing up, now it's ironing and hoovering. I don't know why. But we learn to love by learning how to live. From the mundane, we can reach the sublime. Learning the art of living is how we can learn to love consciously. As you say, not just as couples, absolutely. In any human, any person, any relationship with anybody, anything.
But more with ourselves first.
Yes. Going back to the Greek. Yes.
Not that we, just as we are now, ourselves. If we don't love ourselves first, essentially, there's no point in even considering.
That's right.
anything else.
Yeah, I would agree. We need to learn about what's in here before we can actually do it.
See it in experience
Absolutely.
the other.
So, we've come to the end. Thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions or points they'd like to raise? Sorry, it's 5:02. How long do we have? Oh, 5 minutes. Okay. If you've got no questions, I propose we do a very short meditation. Would that be acceptable? You right with that? Very short. Obviously 5 minutes.